Oh,
Ready?
yeah, okay, let's just wait a second because I think it's going to start right about now. There you go. It's recording now. Over to you, Katrina.
Well, welcome back, everybody. I'm delighted to hand over now to Kim Brown. And Kim has had a huge amount of experience working with adults over 30 years. She works for Transport for London and she works on the British Dyslexia Association helpline. And she's also an assessor for the Adult Dyslexia Centre, of which I'm a trustee. So welcome, Kim, and over to you.
Thank you, Katrina. And hello, everybody. I thought I would do this presentation by sharing some case studies with you. So I've got 5 mini case studies, all around employment issues or issues with adults, or sort of loosely connected to employment with regards vocational courses. And I was just going to, because the remit is breaking down barriers, that was my focus of, I suppose, what I was looking at when I was thinking about doing this presentation is how do we identify what these barriers are. So I've picked let me just change my screen, my next slide. So removing barriers, and I thought it was kind of about how do we remove barriers? We have to identify them first. So I'm going to look at adults with SPLD, obviously that's in green. Then underneath that, I've got a person at work. So I've just got a case study on that. Then I often meet people who say they're in work, but they would like to move jobs and they maybe feel stuck in their work role for various reasons. Then underneath that, someone looking for work, because I often, particularly on the British Dyslexia Association helpline, lots of people phone us that are looking for work and that feel that their dyslexia or their dyspraxia is creating a range of barriers towards getting work. So I've tried to pull it together some information about that. Then on the left, a person wanting to go on a vocational course, that lots of people phone the helpline who are dyslexic and they may be fearful of enrolling on courses for different reasons. And then I was going to look at a person in the justice system, because we also get people who generally write letters to us from prisons who want to know if they're dyslexic, or they know they're dyslexic, but they want to know what to do after they come out of prison. So maybe getting work or retraining. So I thought I'd just do a little snapshot on that as well. So let me change the screen again. So here you have a nice picture of an unusual bus. That bus for me just represents, you know, someone that works in the transport system. There's multiple roles that people could have, but I've picked someone that works as a revenue inspector. So this person, their job is very practical. So initially they applied for the role thinking there wouldn't particularly be much reading and writing involved, and then got a bit of a shock when they realised there is generally quite a lot of reading and writing involved in most of these roles. So this person struggled not with the practical side of the job, which was to do with moving around the network, getting on and off buses, checking people's tickets, possibly issuing fines, and then having to do some administrative tasks relating to fines. So this chap, Sonal, identified his challenges on the job as being, the first one was writing up his reports. So he had to write mini reports each time he issued a fine, and he had 6 minutes allocated for each report. And that's often how specific jobs work, is people are given a sort of a ring-fenced amount of time to produce a piece of work. So he had 6 minutes after each time he issued a fine. So he said that his issues largely were around spelling and writing accurately and coherently, and his reports had to be perfect because they could be used in court, so they had to be accurate and completely legible. And the other issue he had at work was he had to pass training every year to keep his license. So that training was possibly around health and safety and new bits of legislation, safeguarding, that kind of thing. So those were what he identified as he needed adjustments with. So I've put down the 4 solutions that we came up with for him, and these would have been done through what we call workplace needs assessment, which is where you pretty much go through someone's job description, go through the sort of pinch points, the slight areas of difficulty they may have, and then try and find solutions for those. So for this chap, it was very difficult for him with the spelling and writing, because he had to write into a device. Often these kinds of jobs, people have a little device they have to type into, and it's got a template in it. So things like spell checkers and grammar checkers and dictation couldn't work in this device. So we had to think laterally, and we got him a smartphone with a bigger screen and activated the read aloud features, the dictation features, and then he could also go online and use spell check, grammar checking features. So he found that to be a fantastic solution, even though it meant he had 2 devices, and he still had to get the information that he'd drafted up back into the original template. So that was the easier part for him. And then we also managed to navigate that he would be given additional time to write these reports up. So these reports that people were given 6 minutes for each one, we managed to get him so he had 9 minutes for each report, which doesn't sound a lot, but it was enough for him. He felt that he could work, so he had slightly reduced targets and a slightly reduced caseload. And then bottom left, I've put he was able to then let his trainers know about his difficulties and get extra support in the classroom for his relicensing, because up until then he hadn't particularly known he could do this. So he would get a bit of extra tutoring, some extra targets set for his work. And then also he was given additional time in his yearly licensing tests and to use a laptop. And that was the kind of easy part. I know you've just done a session on access arrangements, so I won't go into that. But for the workplace and for professional exams, the access arrangements are fairly similar to what was overviewed in your session before. They can be slightly easier to arrange because people can generally produce some evidence of their dyslexia or dyspraxia or neurodiversity and get recruitment support. So this chap did get that, and that was the kind of easier part to organise. I think sometimes we jump straight to that adjustment and forget about other sorts of adjustments that are equally as important. So that was a person at work. My next person, let me find my mouse. Where have you gone? There you are. I've got a picture of a woman looking slightly confused, and she's a person who is representing someone who has a job but maybe feels stuck in that job. And I find I meet lots of people who have lost their confidence. They're confident in the role they're in, but they're not confident to move up or across into different roles. And so there's various barriers that are in place that they feel kind of need to be removed. So interviewing this person, I shall now move on again. So her main issue, she felt her main barrier was lack of confidence in her skills. So we needed to think, how are we going to improve that situation for her? And we did that again through a workplace needs assessment. And what we did is we identified a colleague who was in the position that she wanted to move up into, who she could shadow for certain amounts of hours periodically. So she basically followed them around and experienced the new job and could then build up her confidence about her own skills for doing that job. She could also, with the person that she was shadowing, practice some interview techniques, because that was another fear that she had. She felt that her dyslexia meant that she would become a bit not necessarily be able to express herself the way she wanted to, or not necessarily remember what she needed to remember. So we arranged for her to have interview practice and to take cue cards into the interview with her that would prompt her with her ideas. We also arranged for her to get some practice papers for the tests, for the recruitment tests, because often people don't think to practice before they do something like a recruitment test. So she could practice answering questions and making sure she hit the competencies for the new job. And then the same, extra time and a laptop in the test. That again was the slightly easier part to arrange. It was the other adjustments that, you know, can be a little bit more complex, can require a bit more lateral thinking about what might work for this person, what constitutes a reasonable adjustment. And I think in my experience of doing this work, I've realised that we can be really flexible when we think about reasonable adjustments, and we can just identify what the barrier might be and then just try and be creative with what might support look like for that kind of barrier. So I feel like reasonable adjustments in the workplace are kind of infinite what we might consider, because if you look at these ones, they're fairly basic and they're not costly, and it's just about identifying them and then setting them up really so that they can be actioned in a very practical way. So my next person is, and my next topic, I've got you in a nice pair of boots there, because this for me represents someone looking for work. And lots of people ring the helpline who feel that they've been unemployed for quite a long time. They feel like they maybe don't have the confidence with finding work. They may feel they don't know how to use the internet. They don't know how to job search, don't know how to work with application forms. And there can be a whole range of reasons why someone feels that they may be stuck in a situation where they're not able to find work. So we would talk this person through sort of trying to find out what are these barriers for this fictitious person I've called Makshi. So this chap had an overall lack of confidence. He didn't know how to match what his strengths were and how he would match those strengths to a job. He didn't know where to go for support, didn't know how to look for work. So we, on the helpline, we kind of try to often signpost people and identify what support would work. So for this chap, we sent him to the organisation called Exceptional Individuals, which is a recruitment organisation for people who are neurodiverse. So this chap was dyslexic, and through that organisation he was allocated a mentor. It's either called a mentor or a workplace coach, but essentially it's like a buddy system, so that he's got someone to work with on identifying what his strengths are, what his weak spots might be, what kind of jobs might suit him. And then he was also helped with working out where jobs might be advertised, and how to go about filling in application forms. So we also identified for him that he might like to get in touch with the local dyslexia association, because many local dyslexia associations have more localised support. So the one he went to had an adults, I think you'd call it a support group. They met regularly to discuss any issues really relating to adults and dyslexia. So his was a lot to do with confidence in the workplace, using technology, filling out forms, reading forms, what kind of technology might help him with reading. And I won't go into that because I know your next session is very much about technology. So that will be covered, but that would be something that we often talk to people about, with what kind of technology could help them move forward with the issues that they're finding. And he found that his strengths were identified, and that was really significant for him to work out, rather than just saying I have no confidence, I have no skills, which is what a lot of people often say. Working out what skills he has got and what skills maybe he needs to work on a bit more, and what kind of work would suit him. So that's a little snapshot really on how we might work out what the barriers are for someone who's looking for work, and try and start to unpick that and work out some very practical solutions really. And also to give people the idea that solutions aren't immediate, you know, and they have to be kind of tried and tested, and new ones found if certain solutions don't work. And I think you'll find that when you look at your next session, when we're looking at technology. Often we recommend technology for people and they may find that it doesn't quite suit them, and that we need to try and think about something else. So but I always feel it's important to keep the conversation open and to keep the searching for solutions a very much an open, ongoing process. Okay, moving swiftly on because of time constraints. My next person is, I've put a rather jazzy image of a set of scales. This is my person who has been impacted by the justice system. And as I said, we do get people contacting the helpline who are in this situation. And we also get staff from prisons contacting us and asking us, you know, how would we suggest that they go about supporting people, how often people are requesting dyslexia assessments, which is obviously very complicated if someone's in prison. We get people writing letters to us asking about dyslexia assessments and what they can do when they come out of prison. So I've just done a little case study on a person I called Julie. Put that in blue. So underneath that, Julie said that her difficulties have never been identified and that she went through her life just struggling and not knowing why she had such extreme difficulties with reading and writing. She felt that when her difficulties were noticed, it was never in a positive way. So it was always very critical, and she repeatedly said she was made to feel stupid, which she clearly wasn't. She identified that she couldn't fill in application forms. She didn't know found that her reading difficulties meant she couldn't read job adverts. So a whole set of struggles, really, with this whole underpinning poor self-esteem about her overall skills. So she then said that it was a key feature for her was when her difficulties were identified, and she said there was a project in a prison where she went to literacy and reading classes, and they did a screening on her and identified that it was highly likely that she was dyslexic. And then that she said that having her difficulties named like that was really empowering, because then she completely realised that she wasn't stupid and that there was a reason why she had this immense struggle. And through that awareness, she began to explore strategies and coping mechanisms, which is what we want. We want people to become more empowered. And she said that she managed to start lifting her overall standard of working, really, by exploring that way, and that her reading and writing skills gradually began to improve. And then she was more confident to then even consider doing any kind of work. And she said she kind of opened her own door then to the possibility of employment, and then found an apprenticeship. So by the time this person phoned our helpline, it was more for technology. She'd already gone through this process. So I've always kept her in my mind as a very positive case study, really, of someone who really, it was a project and a diagnosis that made such tremendous difference for her. So I hope that's useful. And then my last little mini case study, moving swiftly on. Where's my mouse? There you are. Here we go. You're going to wonder what on earth I'm going to talk about now. This is me representing a person that's looking for a career as a hairdresser, because we get lots of people that ring the helpline that talk to us about vocational courses and going into FE colleges and having various fears about going into a college. And these may be people that are school leavers, or they might be people that are more mature and are going back into education. And there's often a whole host of fears. So I've called this person Fuzzy. This person represents someone who's just basically got an overall lack of confidence with course reading materials. And we find lots of people contact the helpline saying they're worried about their reading and they're worried about the huge amount of reading on a course. and even very practical vocational courses have huge amounts of reading. And a hairdressing course does. There's lots of technical reading around chemicals and all sorts. So this person had extra time in their GCSEs, but they didn't have any evidence of that, or they couldn't work out where their diagnostic report was. And we find that a lot. People phone us saying, where's my diagnostic report? Haven't got it. And it may be that this person never actually had a diagnosis, but they went through the Form 8 process, which I think you talked about before me, which can be done without a diagnosis. And it would be the same in an FE college, that I'm just looking at my computer screen saying it's going to turn off, but I'm going to switch it back on. So in an FE college, a person can get a Form 8 process done. So a lot of people we find don't know about college learning support departments and don't realise that there's a disability team in a college. So that would be the first place we would point someone to go and find the learning support team and discuss your difficulties with them. And it's quite surprising how many people don't do that. And this person then, through doing that, was given some one-to-one support, which is absolutely ideal, exactly what they wanted, plus in-class support. And lots of universities offer in-class support. The college found him reading technology. So that helped with the reading demands of the course, a laptop with a built-in screen reader. And the same again, exam access arrangements were sorted out similar to what they may get in school. So that's actually my last person that I was going to talk about, and I've actually finished a few minutes early. So I don't know if you want to do any sort of questions, Julia, or whether we're not doing that.
Well, yes, if anyone's got any questions for Kim, please put them on the chat box. That was really interesting, Kim, thank you. And you were saying about an adult support group, and the Adult Dyslexia Centre do have an online support group, don't they, that people can access? Sorry.
Yeah.
So a bit nearer being online now. And I think Helen talked about the importance of support groups for adults as well this morning. So yes, adc.org.uk if you're interested in that. So
that support group is national, is it? Can people join from any part of the country? Oh, okay, I didn't realise.
They meet in person, but they also meet online as well, so that you can access from anywhere. So that was fascinating. Thank you. Obviously, at universities, the disability services have their own support. You know, they have their own units as well, don't they, at university level?
They do, and also people can buy in support, can't they, through the disabled students allowances at uni. Yeah. But they also do have learning support departments, so that's a key thing really, isn't it, for students to go to.
But it is, I think, it's that confidence thing, as you were saying. All the adults that I've worked with, a lot of it is the confidence where they stay in their job. They don't go for promotion because they've learnt one job, haven't they? They don't want to be exposed by going for promotion. So I thought that was a lovely idea, shadowing somebody else in order to get that.
We have to be practical, don't we, and just think up flexible. I think it's all about problem solving, isn't it, and thinking up flexible, very practical solutions that often people don't consider. Is a possibility and quite an easy thing to organise, really.
And lots of people don't know about Access to Work, do they, and how simple it is to it takes longer to get it, but it's simple to put the process in, isn't it?
Very easy, and at Transport for London, lots of staff use Access to Work, and it's good because it's driven by the employee, so they make the application and then get the report for that, and then that can be quite good leverage as well if someone is feeling like they're a bit stuck or that they're not quite getting the support they need. That report can be quite useful way forward.
Even among classroom teachers, I've come across classroom teachers with Access to Work support, and that's very helpful for them as well.
Yeah, I think the workplace coaching that people can get through Access to Work is often the hidden gem that people don't realise is really good to have. I think they give 10 or 12 sessions of one-to-one with a workplace coach, which really is a specialist teacher, isn't it? They just call it a workplace coach, don't they?
No, that's wonderful, Kim. Thank you so much. I don't think we've got any questions.
Okay, that's fine.
So if you think of it, anyone thinks of anything while Julia's talking, then do put them on the chat room. Otherwise, Julia, thank you so much, Kim. Really appreciate it.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you.
And Julia will be coming on in a second, and she's going to be finishing at 4:30 when we'll wrap up the whole day. So thank you again so much, Kim.
You're welcome.
Thank you. So, Aaron, are you there? I don't know if you wanted to talk about trugs at this point. No, he's not there. He's gone. Julia, are you there?
I am here.